Slavic, then during the Slavic period of time, then it will be fully grasped and understood and implemented, and it will be thoroughly workable. Now, as I said, each culture lasts 2,160 years, so you add 1,413 to 2,160, what do you come up with? 3,500 something AD. So, but we have to start now. I mean, why did Steiner bring it up? He brought it up 100 years ago, and he wanted to implement it then. Start implementing it, start talking about it and discussing it. And he was hoping that there would be individuals in the Anthroposophical membership society that would be up to the task. And he said categorically, this proved not to be the case. There was no enthusiasm for it. And of course, now Steiner died in 1925. Okay, now Hitler came along in 1933. And Hitler specifically is quoted. This is in another book I have called what? The Antichrist, by Peter Tredovsky, who is an anthroposophical writer. And in there he's got a quote from Hitler saying, we don't want to have anything to do with Mr. Steiner's threefold organism. We don't want it. Hitler said that. So, and Steiner did make efforts. I mean, Steiner was a man with a lot of connections in European society when he was alive. I mean, he had, in high places. And he tried to arrange things. But for instance, he gave a letter that was to be given to the German government, one of the ministers, and the letter was handed to an understudy, somebody lower on the totem pole, and the person in question just forgot to give it to him. So that was that. So we have to talk about it, have to discuss it, and have to map it out, and go about, studying how to implement it right now. And so there have to be people who are in positions of, shall we say, influence, who can do that. Because I don't have any influence. I mean, my influence is extends just as far as me giving these videos, putting them on YouTube, and hoping that they're picked up by somebody of influence, in position of high responsibility, who can look at the situation and listen to what I have to say and say, yeah, and read Steiner's books and say, yeah, this is what we need to do, so let's start working on it. But that's not, I can't, I'm hoping that's what's going to happen, that people will get a hold of this Mobuku Chronicles and listen to every video from February of last year until now, until in the future, and say, okay, this is what we need to do. Because the fact of the matter is, the Threefold Commonwealth is inconceivable without people eating whole grains and vegetables as their staple food. I mean, that's obvious. I mean, it's totally obvious because of the economic and ecological and environmental and medical consequences of eating a meat and potato diet. I mean, the Threefold Commonwealth simply cannot come about if that's the case. So there has to be a widespread implementation of people taking into their bodies on a daily basis cooked whole grains and vegetables according to macrobiotic principles. There's no question about that. I mean, I never quite came across, Steiner does talk about food. He does in many different contexts. And it all conforms entirely. Well, I wouldn't say conform is not the right word. It all says exactly the same thing in different terms than what macrobiotics philosophy and understanding of food says. It definitely does. all his stuff. There's no disagreement whatsoever. So, but he never, it wasn't until the last year of his life that he came to the point of saying that in the future we must begin with nutrition and then go through healing to civilization and culture. So it all begins with the food. That's what we take in. And of course this was known way back in ancient Indian culture, which as I said is prehistorical, but they have the Vedas, which is like a faint echo of the tremendously deep spiritual wisdom of that culture, the most spiritual culture that's yet existed on this earth. And the quote's in my book, and the quote ends up with, for those creatures that have a physical body, therefore for those creatures that have a physical body, food is the chief of all things. So, and Steiner said, 1924, from nutrition through healing to civilization and culture. So it has to start there. And that's one of the first things that needs to be implemented. The withdrawal of subsidies to the beef industry and the agribusiness industry, and having those subsidies as a transition being put towards organic agriculture, sustainable agriculture, and biodynamic agriculture, and not forcing people to eat whole grains and vegetables, but once you remove the subsidies from beef and the agribusiness, the marketplace will decide. A free market. So that's another thing, we need a free market. We haven't had a free market on the face of the earth yet. I mean, governments have always interfered in it. So we need a free market. And that's where we need to start. So all those people that are in positions of responsibility who have some influence can say, okay, we got to just stop this. We can't afford health care. I mean, this American Health Act is not going to bring the cost of health care down, not by any stretch of the imagination. It's actually going to increase the federal budget by a total of $300 billion a year over the next 10 years. And the federal deficit is already 1.5 trillion per year. I mean, this is totally unsustainable. So this has to happen. I mean, it has to happen. Now, I don't believe myself that anybody in military, right now, I don't think there's anybody, okay, and I wish to be proven wrong here. I don't think there's anybody in any position of power in the banking industry, in the military, in the intelligence service, in the government, the administration, state government, who has any backbone. I just don't see it. I consider them, right now, until proven not otherwise, witless, gutless, and spineless. Now prove me wrong. Okay? I really like that. But I just don't see anybody out there who's got the wherewithal. So it's going to be up to us as individuals. That's my point. You, listening to this and understanding what I'm saying, have to start implementing in your daily life eating cooked whole grains and vegetables, and buying gold and silver, and studying Steiner. And you have to tell your friends, this is what you need to do. And this is a necessity. There's no question about it. But it's a free will. It's up to you. It's a choice. Do you wish to have a United States of America crumbling about your ears and you think everything is hunky-dory? Or do you want to be one of the people that is the midwife to the birth of America? Who are at the same time, you are the pallbearer for the United States of America and putting it in the grave where it belongs so it can enter into the tomb of history. Do you want to do that? The choice is yours. You want to keep a dead corpse alive? Or do you want to put it in a coffin, take it down to the graveyard, and put it to rest so that historians can go over the history of the United States of America and at the same time be a midwife to the birthing of America? That's the question. Because there are two Americas. You know? There's the one that is magical, beautiful, utterly mysterious, and totally wonderful. And then there's the United States of America, which is in the crapper. That's the scenario presented to us right now. And it's just a question of what choice do we make as individuals? Do you wish to become a slave to the totalitarian state? Or do you want to become a free man and woman who puts the totalitarian state into its coffin and buries it forever? That's the question. And that question is being presented to everybody, whether they know it or not, and whether you like it or not. That's exactly what's going on. So, that will be the end of this particular episode, the 15th, the introduction to the Three Fold Commonwealth. And we'll go into more detail next time, in the next 2 or 3 episodes. Then we'll talk about the brotherhood. Because obviously, right now, we have gangsters in power and lawbreakers making the rules. Now that is a quote from Mr. Bob Dylan in a song that he released. And the song is called When Are We Gonna Wake Up? Actually, it's When Are You Gonna Wake Up? And it was released on an album called Slow Train Coming. And that album came out in 1980. And there's the line in that song. We have gangsters in power and lawbreakers making the rule. So I want to know, is there anybody in the military, in the intelligence services, in the Navy, in the judiciary, in the university, anywhere in positions of responsibility who has got any backbone? That's my challenge to you. Good night. Thank you very much.